Well, this is not the crowd I'm usually with. I'm going to have to excuse my Uncle Jim. He's doing adult things today. So,
Boo.
But we are welcoming one of our first recurring guests.
Woo!
Nick Perez is back here. Nick, how are you doing?
Oh, awesome. Super stoked.
Super stoked.
It was fun last time.
My brother, we listened to that podcast on our way up to our cabin, and he's like, Nick does he brings the explicit genre to your podcast. I was like,
yes, I do.
I tried to limit it, but we appreciate you. And then
just so you know, that was me with a huge filter on, so you should know this.
Exactly. So it is a very clean version of Nick we're getting.
Exactly. Which is a lot.
Yeah. And
more than I give my parents.
My third co-host today is one of my best friends. I've known him for way too long. It's Jacob Buckner. Jacob, thank you for making your radio appearance or podcast appearance today.
I am very excited. Thank you for having me. And if you thought Nick was explicit, you're in for a treat.
So for those...
That was the nicest way I've heard that ever said. He's like, if you thought he was explicit.
He's very eloquent, Jacob is. So this episode is a heavily spoil zone for those that have not seen Avengers. I'm going to give you this moment right here as your bubble. Be like, hey, if you're watching and listening any further, it is to your
you got to do the warning. Warning.
Like,
spoiler alert.
Giant spoilers for Avengers Endgame ahead.
So I want to kind of just talk about the cultural significance of this movie real quick before we get into the actual movie. I think it's incredible that it made the money it made, $350 million in America alone.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Beating Infinity War by $100 million.
Wow.
Which was last year's, which it broke The Force Awakens, I believe, last year. So I have thought about this a lot this week. I don't think we will see anything to this level of box office kind of craze in the next 10 years.
Oh, no.
Like, because you can make the argument Star Wars kind of has that, but nothing is as... Because Star Wars is in a weird place right now where it's kind of divided.
Well, and you got to remember, Star Wars right now, they're coming out with a new one every year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Marvel did that, but they've been building up to Endgame, right? Like, Star Wars, everyone's kind of like, all right, well, where are you going to go from here? Like, they're not building up to anything. They're just making up shit now.
Exactly. And
I'll also say, Marvel has not had a miss yet.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars Episode 8, a lot of people were split on it, and that's why Episode 9 is not going to be as big as it should be.
Yeah.
But like you said, Marvel's been building and building and building, and it culminated in this beautiful masterpiece that's going to shatter probably every box office record.
And I was really curious because Episode 9 is going to have like the kind of, it'll tie the bow on the Skywalker saga. That's kind of like the reasoning. So some people have that reasoning to go see it, but I don't think it's going to be as polarized as this because of Endgame, and Jacob made a mention, is that they've had such a run of success where fans are, it's like a TV show. Like you go every episode, you can't miss it.
Nope.
And you go and check it. And it's developed 21 films before Endgame of people growing up with these movies and being like, well, I have to see the next one. It's become a cultural thing that you just don't, you see it with Game of Thrones. I think that's the only thing right now that you can compare it to is Game of Thrones. And then when Harry Potter was going through their thing, but it'd be like if Harry Potter was twice as long and
3 times better.
Exactly.
At least 3.
At least 3. Yeah.
Let's not be humble.
I'm not a fan of Harry Potter.
Jacob is.
Yeah.
I like Harry Potter, but I recognize that
you look like him.
Yes. Harry Potter. No. But you're right. These not only are these movies well done, but the story writing was just probably the best for a franchise this big ever, and I don't think it'll ever be topped.
And going back to Star Wars, I don't want to compare it to, but it's kind of like the second biggest franchise that's out right now. Star Wars, you can kind of get the feeling that there's not a real direction. Like you can't sit down and be like, okay, what's the 3-act arc of the sequels? Like what's the point of 7, 8, 9? And right now I've enjoyed the Star Wars, but you can't really tell because if you look at the originals, you could tell, okay, it's about taking down the Empire. And then the prequels, you could tell it's about the fall of Anakin and the fall of the Republic.
Yep.
Right now, with Star Wars, I don't really know.
I think they're trying to do what the Avengers have done. I think like before, it was 3 movie segments, right? The original 3 for Star Wars, they were like, all right, we got to tell this story in 3 movies, right? Because back then they were like, George, look, this guy's dumb. He's not going to, sure, yeah, whatever. Have your fun with your puppets, right? And then then they were like, we have a great idea. We're going to do the prequels to these. And everyone was like, that's awesome. Introducing Jar Jar Binks, right? And then they're like, this is what we're going to do. But then now I think what they're trying to do is tell a longer story so that they can continue to grow Star Wars into what Marvel has already done in 21 films.
But see, to me, going along with Brady of having no direction, Star Wars just feels like a cash cow right now.
Oh, 100%.
And they have to redeem themselves in Episode 9. And I know that the Marvel movies are all cash cows, but they're cash cows you want to invest in.
And I think what Marvel has that nothing is really kind of compared to is that they've had years of comic books to pull off of, whereas Star Wars is kind of like, these are just new ideas that these directors are pulling from. And then like they had the expanded universe, but like there was nothing really tangible. There's kind of like a few comics and stuff like that people could like reference to, but nothing that people took as canon, whereas Marvel Comics came first and then the movies after that. So they can be like, well, we like the Infinity War storyline, so we're going to do that.
Yeah, and we're going to expand on it.
Yeah, and we're going to paint the picture. We're going to place these characters, and then we're going to eventually get to this point where they're going to take on Thanos.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Kevin Feige did. And then, whereas like DC Comics, like that's Jacob's bread and butter. Jacob and
I like to suffer. I like to put myself through horrible things. So
hey, I like DC too, man. Yeah, The Flash is The Flash and Deadpool are my 2 favorite comic book characters.
They just can't nail down a movie, and it's just heartbreaking.
I think they can't nail down their big tentpole superheroes.
And I think the
Batman.
cinematographer from all the DC movies actually started working for Game of Thrones in this last episode because they were so dark.
So dark and
like
can't see anything.
Light-wise, you couldn't see anything. But anyway,
so I don't know. I'm perplexed. Do we think that it's going to catch Avatar?
I do, 100%.
It's at 1.2 as of Sunday night.
1.2 billion in the first weekend.
5 days.
It's gonna shatter Avatar.
I don't.
Sorry, James Cameron, but
Avatar is such a weird anomaly.
Yeah, because it was like 10 years before its time when it came out. Everyone was like, "How are they doing this?"
And it came out of nowhere.
Yep,
like it
absolutely.
It just showed up, and I saw it 3 times. I don't know why, but I did.
You did?
I saw it once, and I was like, I'm good.
Friends.
Yeah.
I saw it in 3D twice and normal once. I don't know why. I was hooked, but it just came out of nowhere.
It did. It was like everyone's like, the guy that created Titanic. Avatar? Sure, yeah, whatever.
Here's the thing with Avatar, though. Guess how much money it made opening weekend in the U.S.?
The U.S., I'm going to say...
400 million.
900 million.
Wait, we just got over saying in the U.S. alone.
Oh, in the U.S. alone.
U.S. alone.
Oh, U.S. alone.
Yes. I was like, wait a second, guys. We just got over saying Avengers got 350, and that was a huge deal.
I'm going to say it made 200 million.
Probably about 150, 190 million.
$70 million.
70 million.
Wow.
In week 1.
Wow.
Of the thing with Avatar, it's stretched. It has the longest legs in the history.
Just like their characters.
He'll be here all weekend, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm hired.
Thank you, Jacob. You can leave now. No. But it made $68 million opening weekend. And then the following weekend, it made 50. It had a 26% drop from week 1 to 2. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And then weekend 3, it went to 42. And then weekend 4, it went back up to 54. So it had this incredible legs that I think Avengers it'll be able to beat it domestically, but worldwide is where Avatar made its money. It made $2.0 billion worldwide.
So it made $2 billion in what span though? In the whole life of it so far, or is it like
its entire longevity in theaters?
I think it was from when it was taken out of theaters. They might
so
have
from
re-released
launch until taken out. Oh yeah, Avengers will beat it. In 5 days, they got to 1.2 billion.
Exactly, but we had the difference is that 2.0 $0 billion worldwide, whereas for the domestic gross for Avatar is 7,049. So it was more of a cultural push out of the country than it was inside. And so I'm curious to see if it's gonna be if it'll have the legs that Avatar did and get that 2 billion number.
But I will say I've been to several countries outside the United States since Marvel's been going, and you see Captain America shirts and Iron Man shirts in almost every country. So I think there is some international significance, and I think it's going to blow Avatar out of the water.
Oh yeah, because I mean, comic books and Marvel, it's more of a universal language. You know, like you throw up the symbol of Captain America, every single person knows it.
Who would have thought?
You throw up a blue person, they're like, what?
Avatar's kind of lost its cultural significance because it's been such a long time since we've seen one.
Exactly.
But we're going to get into this Avenger stuff here in a second. But 10 years ago, if you would have told yourself that the biggest movie of your generation is going to star Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, would you have believed anything that would like?
Hell no.
It's like,
I've been reading comics since I was a kid. I've been dreaming for these live action movies. Like, I loved the Batmans. I didn't like the Joel Schumacher one. When he put nipples on the bat suit, that pissed me off. But anyway,
you know what? That he was brave. That was a twist we needed.
Sure, yeah,
we didn't know we needed at the time.
Yeah, that's the word we'll say.
It's gonna be a cult classic in 20 years. Just watch.
It won't.
Val Kilmer.
Yeah. No, but like I've always wanted, because I love Marvel, and I mean I've been reading comics since I was a kid, and I've always wanted these live action like movies. 10 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, okay. Like when I heard they were coming out with Iron Man, I was like, oh man, they're gonna screw up another one.
Yeah, I was like, Iron Man.
Well, and he was a C-list character at the time. Everyone's like, Iron Man? Like,
exactly.
All right, sure.
Like, growing up, it's Batman for me. And because I would watch the animated Batman, and I'd watch the animated Spider-Man and Wolverine, the X-Men cartoons. That was my thing. So those are my three heroes, is the Wolverine, Batman, and Superman, or Spider-Man. Superman kind of is just too overpowered. I never really bought into him. But those are like the characters, like, okay. And I remember seeing Avengers, they had their cartoon on like Warner Brothers or somewhere. They had a cartoon. I remember laughing at it because it looked weird. Like it was Captain America. He looked like these weird, like,
and he had
Boy
wings
Scout.
on the side of his head.
Wings on the side of his head. And Iron Man looked super weird. Like,
well, like Iron Man, he would always in the cartoons, like he would get 3 hits and he'd be like, "Oh no, my suit's powering down. Like y'all have to do this on your own." So like when Iron Man movie came out, I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a hoot." I am excited.
So
I liked it.
But we're here now, and Captain America, Iron Man are arguably up there as the top 5 favorite. You walk around and see kids wearing backpacks, and I think Batman still has that cultural significance that he's the most favorite, but I think you're seeing a lot more Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man bags, just kind of, which is crazy to think from the time where we grew up, where that wasn't really much of a...
No, because the stuff that I used to get beat up for as a kid, man, is super popular now. Like one of my friends posted a meme. He's like, all of my high school friends that used to make fun of me, I could have explained the Marvel Universe and all this stuff to you back in the day, but no, you wanted to go to parties and have sex with each other.
Losers.
Who does that?
Who's the loser now?
Okay. So now, if you've stuck with us, this is the actual spoiler. We're gonna take a walk down the movie. How many times have you seen it, Nick?
Once.
Okay, and Jacob?
Yeah. One time.
Okay, I've seen it twice.
Nice.
Ooh,
see, I'm going to see it this weekend, though.
Okay. I just got
Again.
AMC A-list, so I get to see three movies a week. So I was just like,
I'll go see it 3 more times.
why not? It's like there's nothing out until Detective Pikachu. So I mean,
right.
I'm just gonna kind of use that until.
Speaking of, real quick, did you see the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog?
I tried not.
Sonic the Hedgehog, I think, is the second installment of the Super Smash Brothers cinematic universe. That's my Detective Pikachu, Sonic the Hedgehog. Next, we're gonna have. Oh yeah, think about it.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
God, I hope
Pikachu.
Not, but we'll see.
Yep. Next, there's either going to be a Mario Brothers or they're going to save it.
I've heard Nintendo's producing a Mario Brothers.
All I'm saying,
so
I'm saying it right now.
Movie.
April 30th, 2019, they're going to have a Super Smash Brothers cinematic universe.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like,
okay, never mind. You know what? Endgame is not going to set the record. It'll get shattered
because of Asia culture and their love.
Oh yeah.
So Avatar 3, Endgame second, and
yeah, exactly.
And
then Super Smash Brothers Cinematic Universe. Yeah, so, exactly. All right, let's go.
Okay. So I loved how this movie started.
It freaked me out. I didn't honestly I thought the projector person screwed up because I forgot that when my friend actually had to explain it to me. She was like, no, they all the Avengers movies, they start cold. Because it threw me for a second until the title screen came up. I'm like, oh man, did they just start this in the middle of the movie? I was like, people are about to be pissed. Yeah. And then I realized, I was like, oh,
sad.
Yeah, and if I had a heart, I probably would have cried. But, you know.
I as soon as I saw the screen come up, I knew it was going to happen, and I was immediately just dreading it. I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, and then...
And I think everyone knew what was going to happen. I think that was kind of the beauty of it. Is the fact that we all knew what was going to happen, but we all were still shocked, and like the pain was still there when we saw it happen. So I thought that was well done. And Hawkeye has been a weird character. He's had a weird arc. He showed up in Thor. I just had a brief cameo in Thor, and then he had he was kind of a villain, pseudo mind tricked villain in Avengers.
Yep.
And then everyone was like, oh, Hawkeye kind of sucks. Like, he doesn't really do anything. And then Ultron shows up, and he has an amazing arc in Ultron.
Oh yeah,
he's the funniest character in that movie, I think. And
good redemption.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun one-liners in that movie. And then
he's nowhere to be found in Infinity War.
But he makes an appearance in Civil War. He comes and saves Scarlet Witch,
that's
and
true.
then he gets arrested, and then we don't see him. And then
I love the loose cannon though. It was a nice touch, and that's the thing about the Marvel universe is all these heroes just added their own little spice to the formula.
Yeah,
and his was just kind of the renegade.
Yeah, I did like how they turned him into Ronin, which is nice.
They never mentioned his name was Ronin in the movie. So like for those. It's the deep comic cut.
Exactly.
And for those that just watch the movies, they can say, well, they already have a bad guy named Ronin, so it kind of makes sense why they got rid of the name of Ronin. But
but it's not Ronin. Was it Ronin the Destroyer
or the Accuser?
Or it's not that one. It's
like the actual Ronin of like a rogue samurai.
He's the samurai. Yeah.
Oh wow, look at that! I had no idea that was a.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Good to know.
The more you know.
And then seeing his daughter like fade away, like super sad. And then like just I don't think Jeremy Renner gets enough credit. He's a really good actor. I wouldn't say he's very much of an action actor, but like when it comes to character arcs and stuff like that, he does a really good job. You could see it on his face. Like I don't know how the Russo brothers pitched that scene.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you lose your family, and now I want
you
you to
no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I want you to react. And his face in that scene is exactly what I thought of. Like if I had a picture of somebody that was so confused, scared, and mad at the same time, that is what I would think of. And I was so impressed with him throughout this movie. And we'll get to the more kind of bigger part when we get there. But I think Jeremy Renner did an amazing job in this.
He did, and might I say, my one critique of Marvel movies had always been they're too humorous, not dark enough. Infinity War and Endgame, they brought it, and that's what made them amazing movies.
Yeah, and I think what separates Marvel movies from pretty much any other movie out there is that they can add the dark and the sad and stuff, but then bring you right out of it with some comedy. Perfect timing. Like, because there's some movies where it's like, okay, well, this is intent, like, oh, this is sad, but I know comedy's coming. Infinity War, that wasn't the case. You're like, when are they going to win at the end?
Exactly.
Oh, those are the credits. Son of a biscuit. It's like, and then all of a sudden, I said biscuit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I know. Yes, I saw you get scared there for a second.
Yeah, no.
He's like, no, I got to mute his mic.
No.
But anyway.
The dark. So I think comedy is a great way to introduce somebody to dark humor. So when people say that Thor Ragnarok, for an example, Thor Ragnarok is a bad movie because it's a comedy throughout the entire movie, and I will argue that it's the darkest of all of the Avenger movies because of what happens in that movie. You see Hela go to town on all those Asgardians. That's dark. It may be tied, like there might be a humorous tone to it, but there's still a darkness to it.
Yep.
And then the entire Asgard like planet of Asgard is exploded. I mean, Thor loses an eye. Like there's a lot of dark themes that it's just kind of tied with humor, and I think that's, we'll get to Thor in a second, but I think that's how his character is kind of portrayed now. Yeah, is that he gets through these awful times through humor. Yeah, and I think when people push away comedy because they want to have dark tones to it, I don't think that's fair, because I think comedy is a great way to educate people and to elaborate on those dark tones. And I think the way that the Marvel Universe has done it is done a great job of like portraying, like, you can have these dark like things happen to you and you can laugh about them, because that's just how people kind of get over these type of things. So,
exactly. All right, let's keep going. We have a lot to cover.
We got a lot to go.
Wow. 3 hours of a movie. Let's go.
And I wrote a 7-page.
Yeah, I see this.
Rundown.
7-page thing.
And we're just bullet point one. Check.
20 minutes in. Okay, so the next part we see Iron Man giving his soliloquy to Pepper. I thought that was a very nice scene. I don't know how much we want to talk about this. I thought Nebula does a kind of
a good job.
Good job at kind of like being together. Like, I don't know, there's those two.
Well, and I liked in the trailers, you didn't know that you just assumed that he was in space by himself, and you didn't know that it was him and Nebula. Yeah, right. I kind of liked how they opened with, it shows little things here and there of them being stuck on a ship for a long time.
Yeah,
and you didn't know when that was going to come in the movie, but I might add, Nebula was a fantastic character in this movie.
Oh my heavens!
And I'm such a fan.
And I'll get there, but there's 2 characters in this movie that I did not expect to get as much screen time as they did.
Yeah,
is Nebula and Rhodey. Like, I did not expect those, and they got paired off, so that's kind of a reason why they were both. But like, those 2 are characters that you just don't really care about. They're the kind of background characters in their movies. So it was nice seeing them show up. Captain Marvel comes to save Iron Man. I was really curious how they were going to pull this off.
Me too.
I thought they were going to just do the rescue thing right at the stop.
Yep.
And then Pepper was going to show up with a ship, and she was going to save him.
Yep.
I thought that's what was going to happen. It makes more sense. It was Captain Marvel.
It does, because it makes sense, because at the end of Captain Marvel, how she shows up with the Avengers when her pager goes off. I'm really glad that it didn't start there.
Exactly.
Like, I'm glad that it was, she's already caught up. She knows everything, because it was a 3-hour movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm glad that part of it wasn't us watching them explain it to Captain America and then Captain Marvel, and then she having to go and do what she does, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was great how they just sent her, and she's like, we don't know where Tony is. We don't know where all these people are. Like, what happened? Blah, 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 blah. So she was going through, I think she was probably looking for Thanos. Yeah. And then she just happened upon on the ship.
Yeah. And I imagine that she was headed to Titan.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, well,
that's where they came from.
Yeah, that's where Tony was. So she was probably just on her way. And it's like, oh, look, a ship.
Yeah.
So I would hope. I don't know.
Piece of candy.
It was like,
piece of candy.
Yeah.
So then we flash forward. I think this is where the buzz around, I think Robert Downey Jr. has a legit shot at being nominated for Best Actor in this movie.
Oh, yeah. And if he doesn't win an Oscar, I'm going to be pissed.
And it's a lot of the beginning of this movie. He looked disheveled. He looked ill. And I was for sure thinking, okay, well, maybe this is how he goes out. Like, he's just gonna
at the beginning, just like sickly, just
yeah.
It's like
just withers away.
When I first watched it, I was like, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh wow, he's just gonna be a crippled old man this entire movie, and that's how he's gonna go out. And I thought that his darkness, and I was telling Buckner before this movie, or it's like I walked into this movie and I knew I was in trouble with emotions when Tony Stark walks down the ramp and he looks at Cap and he's lost the kid. And at that point, I felt emotions come up inside of me. I was like, uh-oh. that was an easy one.
You're like, this is where I cry. Yeah.
They're gonna get me in this movie. Mm-hmm. And so I liked the way that Tony didn't forgive Cap, but he kind of did. He had to, because it's just kind of life like happened, and he
had no option.
Yeah, it's like you can't be mad at somebody, but like he's still pissed at him just for not being there and not doing what Tony had been telling them for all these years. Yeah. So I enjoyed that, and then his kind of breaking down in that scene was really kind of heartbreaking, but also like it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I just side note, little asterisk? It's kind of sad that Spider-Man lost both father figures in his life. Prominent ones. So
he's having a hard time.
Yeah. So that's a lot of baggage. So
right.
Yeah.
So, and then going to, I was curious what the arc of Thor was in this movie.
I'm really glad the way they did it, because it shows, because throughout the history of Marvel, Thor has been always, I guess, he hasn't had a lot of fear or self-doubt or been depressed because he's a god.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he has the power to defeat all this stuff. In his mind, he believes that everything happened the way it did because of him.
Yep.
Right? That's why he made the reference of I went for the head and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, it showed the perfect progression of how someone who has been super confident literally gets beaten down at the legs, and you are just super depressed. You're angry. You don't know how to fix it because you don't know where this guy is.
Yeah.
You don't know what happened. You thought you knew everything, when it came to the universe and all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, this thing happens because of you. Like, that's what he feels.
Yeah.
Right? He comes save the day, which he did in Infinity War when it came to Wakanda and stuff. And then when he had a shot to kill Thanos,
he missed.
And he's like, this is all my fault, right? So him being angry the way he was, I think was perfect. And then especially when what happens to him, yeah.
And did you want to say something about Thor, or you?
No, I just agree. His anger that he showed after he decapitated Thanos just eventually evolved into fear and anxiety, and he just didn't know how to cope with that because he had never experienced it before.
Exactly.
So 100%.
I can see myself having an issue with this character. This, not Thor, but Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I am bugged by her confidence.
Why?
And because I think Rhodey
because Brady hates women.
Exactly.
Let's just face it.
And Rhodey made a mention. It's like they've been doing this for a long time, and she just showed up and was like, she is by far the most overpowered one.
Well, you also got to remember she's been around longer than they have,
and that's hard for me to realize because we just saw her movie. She's been around doing this since the 90s, so it makes sense. Like,
in our timeline, it's the 90s, and she took off and is kind of like what she said. She's protecting Earths and universes and whatever on planets that don't have the Avengers.
Exactly.
Right? Like, she knows. I'm sure she kept contact with Nick Fury. It's not like in the 90s, she's like, all right, here's a cool pager with my logo on it. Let me know if you need anything. I'm going to take off and never talk to you again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure they kept that thing going where they talk back and forth and things like that.
The issue I have, though, I'll let you speak here in a second, Jacob, is from a fan's perspective and like out of context, you can assume that she's been doing this for 30, 40 years now because she's been fighting crime in space since the 90s. But when you have a character that you don't know she knows Thanos, because nothing's told us that she knows who Thanos is. Yeah. And then she shows up and like, all right, well, I'm going to go kill Thanos. It's like, how do you know who Thanos is? Like you don't know. Like, it just comes across as, it's like, I'm just overly cocky, and I kind of just want in the next, because she's obviously getting a sequel, I want the next movie just to bring her down because she's just overpowered. I need something to, that's the same reason why I don't like Superman, is that he's just so overpowered. Yeah. It's hard for me to care about the character. Yeah. And that's the part of, like, at the end of Captain Marvel is the hardest part I had with it. Yeah. Is that when she figured out her true power, there was like nothing for me to be like, oh, well, she might lose this. No, she's going to destroy the entire fleet. And
a lot of why Captain Marvel will have her downfalls and stuff is because she's still a human and she's going to have those doubts, right? Yeah. She wasn't raised a god, things like that. She got her power from an Infinity Stone. Yeah. Same with Scarlet Witch, right? Yeah. So, like, the reason those two are some of the most powerful creatures in the Marvel universe is because they have those powers from the Infinity Stone.
Makes sense.
Right? Yeah. So, I liked Captain Marvel's confidence only because of the fact that, like I said, we don't know how long it's been since the end of Captain Marvel, where she finds out, where she's like, "Where's Nick Fury?" Yeah. Right, and then boom, it's over. And then the beginning of Endgame, we don't know that time length, so she may know exactly who Thanos is because they've told her about him.
Yeah, and I imagine that they have.
Yeah, and she's like, "I'm gonna kill this guy because he just destroyed everybody on this planet, and this is my planet." Blah 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 blah. Okay. If you had those powers, you would be just as cocky.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I don't mind confidence when the confidence is earned. Exactly. And when you're as powerful as Captain Marvel, you can do that. And, going throughout the universe, I'm sure she's heard of Thanos' name. Yeah. Like, he's the most powerful being in the universe.
Yeah. Like, in the movie context that we've seen, like, we don't know that.
That's true.
Yeah. Making us assume.
It's implied.
Yeah.
But I will say, for how late she was introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think she got the perfect amount of screen time. She had cool moments.
I loved the fact that she was only in the movie for 5 minutes.
If she would have come in at the end, beat the crap out of Thanos, pulled off the Infinity Gauntlet, snapped her fingers, and everything was fixed, I would have been furious.
Oh yeah.
But she had her moment.
Yeah,
Still got her butt kicked.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I think we were talking about this before. I liked how she came in and she did what she's really good at, kicking a lot of ass really fast. Sorry. And she went through that ship just like she did in her movie, right? When she freaked out Ronan, which is another reason of why she, is so cocky, is because she just defeated an entire space army where it took all the Avengers 2 movies to do it, right?
Yep.
It was like, I'm going to do this real quick. She blew through the ship and she started kicking his butt. But then he was like, you know what? Hang on. He takes the Power Stone out of the gauntlet
and
charges it and just wham,
and
knocks her across the thing. And I'm like, that's what needed to happen.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think I hope that the writers for Captain Marvel 2, because the way that she portrays herself, she thinks that she can take on the world. And I hope that in this next movie that she gets
or the universe.
The universe, and she spreads herself out too thin, and like she starts people start dying under her watch because she thinks that she can do so much. So I think that's how you humanize her a little bit. But anyway, I don't want to spend. Anyway. I don't want to spend too much time on Captain Marvel, but because she's barely in this movie. I like the gag first time in space with Rocket.
Yeah, that was funny.
So I thought that was really funny. The Rocket had a lot of one-liners in this that I thought were just gold.
Yeah,
I thought it nailed it. Bradley Cooper is always does a good job as that character.
I do like how they didn't spend a lot of time searching for Thanos, and Nebula was like, I know where he's at.
Yeah, he's at home. He's at the garden that he takes.
That would have been miserable if like the whole first half of the movie was just finding Thanos to find him in his weakened state.
And then find out that he destroyed the stones anyway.
Yes.
And that was perfect writing.
So, and then they all show up, and Thanos, you can kind of, like, I saw it on my second viewing. I didn't realize Thanos is limping the very beginning of that scene.
You can tell he is jacked up.
Yeah, and you see him. He's basically scarred his entire left or right, depending on whatever the glove is on. I'm not really sure. And he's
his left hand.
His left hand. So he's scarred up. Everyone kind of bursts through his hut, and then Thor. This is when I was like, "Holy cow! This is a dark movie." Thor comes out of nowhere and just chops off his arm. I was like, "Whoa, okay, cool." Yeah. And then. I was like,
and the thing is, I think they were trying to do Tony's plan in the beginning, where Star-Lord screwed it up in Infinity War
because they went the same strategy.
That's what I'm saying, the exact same strategy, right? But Star-Lord screwed it up because he got emotional because he found out Gamora was dead, right? So I think they were like, Tony's like, this is gonna work. We don't have that idiot anymore, so this is gonna work, right? And then Thor was like, rah! And he cut off his arm,
and then sped up, and then Thanos destroyed the stones, and at that point I was like, oh wow, I don't know where this movie's gonna go.
I know. I was like, whoa.
This movie threw me for a loop because they said, oh, the stones are now at an atomic level.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is where Ant-Man comes in because he's gonna shrink down, go to the quantum universe, and find the fragments. So I was like, okay, this is what they're gonna do, because I like to predict movies.
Yeah.
But I like the twist they did.
So, and then like out of nowhere, I was sitting around a bunch of kids when I'm seeing this movie. So Thor comes out of nowhere and just
chops
his head off. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, we're going there. Like, I was like, where do we go? I was like, I immediately, my nerdy mind was like, okay, is Kang coming in?
Yeah. Like, what do we do now?
Who's the villain? Like, I have no idea. It's like, all right, Thanos is dead. And then it fades to black.
Yep.
And I loved how slow they took it. It was like 5 years later. And I remember seeing it, this is why I go to premieres, is because it's kind of like a sporting event where everyone is kind of as passionate as you are. And like literally, it's just like they just we all got gut punched together, and that was I like that.
Yeah.
The Cap was in a support group. I think that's very true to his character. You learn that in Winter Soldier. Well,
even the world, like how it was filmed and how everything was, that's exactly, I honestly think, how it would be as if something like that were to happen.
Yeah.
People wouldn't know what to do. They'd be in support groups like, Cap, and of course he would be leading it because it's Captain America. He's still trying to do his due diligence.
And I don't sweep it under the rug. Anthony Russo making his appearance. I thought I was the only one
that was pretty. Well, it was funny because I was like, is that one of the Russo brothers?
I was like the only one that knew that.
That's the one that doesn't look like he has a horrible toupee on. Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, I was like, hey, and then nobody else, like, I looked around and nobody caught it. I was like, oh, I'm the nerd guy that likes to know who directors are. And it's also the first LGBT character introduced into the Marvel universe too. So
that's true.
Well, I like what you said because it actually felt like a real tragedy.
Yeah.
Because if they could have just focused on the superheroes, and we really probably wouldn't have minded, but then they showed the real world and the monuments in San Francisco, and you're like, wow, this is like 9/11, but way worse.
Well, and it's like how... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
Oh, it's like how in real world, like if you're a superhero and you lose, like that's how Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, was acting. You know, she was like, you could see she was disheveled. Like everybody was separated. They're still trying to figure things out, and they're like, "What are we doing?"
5 years.
5 years, man.
She did not take care of her hair either. I was very repulsed.
You didn't like her hair?
You could see the roots everywhere. It was different colors.
I like everything Scarlett Johansson does.
I wasn't floored by her beauty in the
Scarlett Johansson. If you're watching this,
she's not.
She will be.
She just tweeted at us.
Thank you.
She just did the vomit emojis.
Rat for MVP?
Oh yeah. If it wasn't for that rat, the movie would have ended. Like that's it. 5 years later, end credits.
It's like nobody would have found Ant-Man, and nobody would have figured out how to go to the quantum realm. It's just kind of nitpicking, but like the fact that the rat had to turn on the van is kind of you could have think of something better, but whatever.
Well, it makes sense.
Again, this is like aliens destroying half-life in the universe, snapping the finger. So like a rat jumping on
crawling
a keyboard
across and touching an LED or an LCD screen. That makes sense.
Yeah. So.
What I'm glad they did, because one of my original theories was that because the quantum realm and the time realm were really like a hair away from each other, right? I honestly thought how they were going to reintroduce Ant-Man is that he was going to accidentally find the time realm, and he was going to like kind of like what they did in the rest of the movie. He was going to go back in time, and he'd be like, "The hell's going on?" Like, and he was going to just be in New York, and it was like the battle, and he's like, what's going on? They're like, "Oh, Thanos, blah blah blah," and he's like, "Oh, I got this thing. We can go back and blah blah." So I'm really glad that the rat was the MVP, but it was kind of the better way of explaining it because he didn't know. He's been in there for 5 years, but it felt like 5 hours.
He doesn't really know who Thanos is.
No,
They might have mentioned him to him,
and he doesn't know that the people he just saved are gone.
Yeah,
because to him it's been 5 hours.
Exactly, and I enjoyed the resurgence of Ant-Man, and then I like the post-apocalyptic scene with him, like the kid. It looks like he was a disheveled kid. Like he's probably he's done a lot of dark stuff in the last few years.
Oh yeah.
And then he finds the graveyard, and I was like, I was hoping he wouldn't find his daughter's name. So like I was just like, come on, Scott, like find. And then it finds his name, and he realizes like what's happened. Mm-hmm. So he sprints home, and this is the second part of the movie where I got emotional. I was like, oh gosh, it hit me again.
Yeah.
And he sees Cassie,
and she's
5 years older,
grown up,
and which is like for us nerds that know Cassie becomes Stature in the comics, which is she takes over the mantle of Ant-Man when he passes on. So I see the seeds, Kevin Feige. I see them.
Good job. Keep it going.
And so that was a real sad scene. And then it cuts to Black Widow, and she's in charge of the Avengers. So everyone's kind of giving a spiel. Okoye, I think, had a small Namor hint.
Yeah. I freaked out a little bit, and I almost threw my popcorn because when she said that little Namor, because I love Namor.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like I started to tell him, I'm like, she's like, shut up. I'm like, if they bring a Namor movie next, forget about it.
Namor is basically Marvel's version of Aquaman. So for those that aren't
mixed with just a badass.
Yeah, he's kind of
mixed. He's like Archer and Aquaman mixed into one character, and a little bit of Deadpool.
His movie rights are kind of up in the air right now. Universal still owns him.
Yeah,
along with the same thing with the Hulk.
Yeah, but Disney's about to own everything, so it doesn't matter.
I think what the way they do it.
I am inevitable, Disney.
Exactly. I think the way that they bring Namor in is there's a comic series between Wakanda and the Atlanteans where they fight each other. I think that could be Black Panther too, where the Wakandans and the Atlanteans fight each other. That way, it doesn't have to be a Namor
movie. Yeah, exactly. He can just show up.
He can show up. So
I don't know if you can make an Ant-Man standalone movie. By God, you can make a Namor standalone
that's what
movie.
I'm saying is that Universal won't let them. That's why
Universal owns Namor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's why we can't have a Hulk movie either. They just put him in other movies, and he has his arcs there. And so Black Widow's running the Avengers. Everyone's kind of going around the circle, telling her what's going down. Captain Marvel tells the world, "Hey, I'm overpowered. You're not going to see me until the third act."
Pretty much. She was like, "I'm out here doing this for everyone." She's like, "This has happened everywhere." Yeah. And she's like, "And check out I'm going to call your manager haircut."
She's got the Captain Marvel comic haircut, which I enjoyed.
But like, I just like how they sent her off though, because she didn't have the chemistry with the other characters, so we didn't have to worry about fitting her in.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that like this movie would make me laugh. I liked Captain Marvel. I don't seem like I hated the movie, but I wish that was the Russos had more time with her because I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I want to see what they can do with that character. Anyway, so
all right, let's keep going.
And then
we're still on the first page.
Yeah, and then Rhodey telling Black Widow that
about Hawkeye or slash
Hawkeye,
Ronan.
and you could tell like she's sad because her friend's kind of in this dark place and she doesn't know how to fix that.
It's just funny because that was like a role reversal because she had been an assassin, all that stuff, and then he'd always been good stellar guy, and then they just kind of swung in the opposite direction.
Yep. And then Ant-Man shows up.
Yep.
And they're like, and he comes in, and this is where he gets like you cut so you don't see him explain the quantum realm, but like. So he kind of gives the spiel, like, "Oh, we can go back in time," and
they're like, "Yeah, okay."
But now we can't. It's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it. That's how we're gonna do it, just like that." And they say it just like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then we cut to Iron Man, and I thought he was going to a dog.
I did too.
The beginning of the movie, I was like, "Oh, he's got a dog. Oh, nice." And then
a tent for his dog.
So I didn't think of that. I was like, "Oh, okay."
He's got too much money.
And then he introduces Morgan to us. So I was like, "Oh, this is this is gonna be okay." So, but this is my mind. I was still in like Back to the Future rules. So I think he's like, "Oh, he's not gonna want to go back in time because he's gonna lose his daughter if he does that." So.
But then you find out Back to the Future is a lie.
Yes, exactly.
So.
And I love that scene where they list off all of the future movies and time travel movies. I thought that was fun. Iron Man tells him straight up that he's not going to help. He's kind of moved down, and and everyone else wants to move on, should move on.
And I just want to touch on this one point really quickly, and we can move on. They had no business making the Hulk that handsome. That was absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary, but I'm glad they did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Professor is always kind of one of the more favorite Hulk arcs.
Oh yeah, everybody loves him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed seeing the Professor finally come out because they always try to do something different with the Hulk every time you see him. So I've enjoyed his arc to see this, and then the teasing with Ant-Man was fun too.
Yeah, the picture thing that was great.
That was so awkward, but I loved it. Oh,
as plot goes and convenience goes, I loved how quickly Iron Man figured out how to time travel.
Well, that's the thing. Like he used the Mobius strip or whatever, and he's like, do this, and he's like, run the simulation. And I think he's been trying to work on it before, right?
Yeah.
And if it weren't for him putting all this stuff in the computer before, and then she was like, "Oh, it's complete," and he goes, "Wait, what?"
Like, he just has like that heart attack moment. He sits back down.
It's kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, he needed to figure this out because it wouldn't have been anybody else.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like the only other person I think in the universe that could have figured it out was the Black Panther. Yeah, Shuri. Yeah, but she was gone. Yeah. So like, if it weren't for him figuring it out, then the movie wouldn't have gone anywhere.
And then we jump to a fun scene where the Hulk is just sending Ant-Man back in time, and
because they're trying to figure it out themselves. Yeah,
he's coming back and he's old and he's a baby, and so that was a fun. And then Iron Man just shows up. He's like, "Okay, we got to fix it."
I like how he was like, he turned into a baby, didn't he? And he's like,
he just knew.
Because like the time goes through you instead of you going through time.
Exactly.
That was nice.
It was like a nice one of those like math moments where your teacher comes up. No. You missed the variable.
You're like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh, you wanted me to solve for X. I see.
And then the assembling montage scene, Rocket and Nebula come down, and Ant-Man first is introduced. I don't think this is the first time he's ever seen aliens. So I think.
Oh, Ant-Man?
Yeah. So
because he freaks out.
Yeah, he's like he sees them, and then Nebula's like, "Oh, there's a lunatic," and Rhodey lands.
I felt the most sad for his tacos.
Right.
I was he was so excited to eat those tacos, and then all of a sudden the ship comes down. It's like.
I mean, he got them again, but like I was extremely hungry, and I watched that movie, and I was like, "Oh, what a colossal waste!"
And then the Hulk was like,
"Look how nice he was." I was like, the way the Hulk was like, "Here."
How much does the Hulk eat? Like, what is his caloric intake per day?
We'll have to ask him next time he's on the show.
Yeah,
too much.
Coming next week.
Yeah.
And then we jump to Hulk and Rocket heading to New Asgard to find Thor. I liked seeing Valkyrie again. I was glad that she made her appearance.
Yeah,
she's a good one.
So, and then walking into Thor's hut, we get Thor Lebowski.
Thor Lebowski. Yep.
And I recently watched The Big Lebowski before. I just happened to watch it before this movie, so I enjoyed the I wanted to touch on it, but I kind of already mentioned it. The story of Thor and his darkness.
Yep.
Of the it made sense because of how much he lost his mom, he lost his dad, then he lost his brother
in front of him.
Exactly, he killed his sister.
Yep.
He lost his planet. and he lost half of the people he was supposed to protect to Thanos. And then
half the people in the universe.
And then he goes through that arc, and you see it in Infinity War. He kind of chokes up, saying like, "Oh, I lost my dad," and he starts getting really emotional. And then he comes back and he gets his sense of purpose with the giant axe. I forgot the name.
Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
Thank you. And he comes back and he's all overpowered. He probably had the most BAMF scene in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And he has the chance. He's got the God Killer. He's got the chance to kill him.
Yep.
Misses.
Then he turns to Thor Lebowski.
And then,
which makes sense.
His mindset is like, if we get these stones back, I won't feel as crappy. Like, and then as soon as he finds out as Thanos destroyed them, that kind of sends him like, I've failed all these people. They're gone forever.
Nothing I can do.
Down goes, and he's depressed, and it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah,
why
I like how through the rest of the movie he didn't just magically get his abs back.
Yeah,
like he stayed chunky the whole time.
Sorry,
I laughed so hard when like he had his suit back on from the lightning. It just punched out.
And
that was really good.
And then we jump to Ronin / Hawkeye in Japan, just wrecking people. That's the second time where I was like, "This, how is this PG-13?" Because like he's like slices the dude's neck open. He's
you see the
through,
blood, like,
and that's what I love about the Russo brothers. They made that scene seem like it was a completely different movie.
Yeah,
like it looked like an old school like samurai kung fu movie, and I'm like, oh my god. I was like, this is so awesome.
I was like, I love Hawkeye. And like, then you see him, like, he knows that Black Widow's behind him. And you see, like, he's just embarrassed with who he's become. And he's like, you shouldn't be here. And he's like, neither should you. And I've just enjoyed the arc. I love the fact they did not make this relationship romantic in any way in any of the movies.
Me too. Yep.
It's just a familiar brother, sister.
Best friends.
Like comrades. Exactly. Like, we're in this together.
Exactly. And I really do appreciate that because you don't get many boy-girl best friend storylines.
Exactly.
Platonic relationships are important.
They are.
And so they bring him back. He gets to we talk about the Pym particles to jump to timelines and stuff like that.
Yep.
They test it out on Hawkeye because he has nothing to lose.
Yep.
He comes back and says like, "Oh, it works." So they get the time heist, which I enjoyed. The
time heist was good.
And they pick 3 specific points to go to. They go to 2012 in New York during Avengers 1, where the Mind Stone is.
And I like how they figured it out too. Was it Scarlet Witch or no? Black Widow was she was like, oh, she's like, wait, weren't at one point all 3 in New York? And they're like, duh. Yeah.
So Mind Stone was in Loki's staff. Space Stone was in the Tesseract. And then the Time Stone was in Doctor Strange's.
At the time,
quantum,
the Ancient Ones,
necklace, yeah.
And then Asgard, the Reality Stone, Rocket and Thor go there, and then Morag, Power Stone and Soul Stone, Nebula and Rhodey go to get the Power Stone. Hawkeye and Black Widow go.
Oh God!
And we'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. And then we get. I liked the plot. I enjoyed going back in time and seeing all of our favorite movies again.
Oh yeah,
kind of time. I liked. We're going back to the original Avengers. Hulk and the Ancient One, probably one of the most underrated scenes in the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
Every time they were on screen together, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I thought Tilda Swinton, it was great seeing her back.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that she knew. Like, they're all the way back in, 9 years in the past?
Yeah. So this would, it would be like 11 years.
Because she said what?
It's 2023 is when that.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah. So, she's like, he's performing a surgery right now. He's actually not going to come to me for another 5 years or something like that. And then I'm like,
wow, you knew everything.
Yeah.
I want to go back and rewatch Doctor Strange and watch the Ancient Ones interactions because it's such a cool character.
Doctor Strange is one of my top favorite MCU movies. And
Absolutely.
I know everyone doesn't like. There's a lot of people that don't like it.
I love it.
I think Benedict Cumberbatch. He's my second favorite of
Bendy
all
Straw Cabbage Patch. Exactly.
of the MCU characters. So I enjoyed seeing Tilda Swinton coming back, and so America's Ass. That was so funny. I can't get enough of that.
I like how they recreated the elevator scene from Civil War where he kicks the Snikes out of those guys.
Well,
I thought he was going to do that again.
So did I.
And then he just pulled out the wit.
Hail Hydra.
Well, and that was
beautiful.
such a fan service moment, but I'm
100%.
so fine because it made sense because he knew those people
Exactly.
were Hydra agents.
At the time in Civil War, he did not.
Yeah.
But because he went back, he's like, no, I'm gonna take it. They're like, let me call. He's like, you don't have to. And he's like, Hail Hydra. That was great because they did the Hail Hydra thing in the comic books when everyone was like, he went Hydra, no way, you guys suck.
Exactly. Yeah. And I want to see the alternate timeline of that scenario where they just reveal themselves to Captain America. They're just like accidentally. It's like, wait, no, like we had that moment. Remember in the elevator?
Could you, like after he wakes up from getting his butt kicked by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, well, I thought we were buddies, man. Hail Hydra. He's like, no, you're horrible. And they starts kicking ass again.
But it's like, I love the America's ass part.
Well, like I like how Captain America, he finally stopped giving a, pardon my French, shit, and they let his character loose. He was able to have fun. Mm-hmm. And you know what? He's been like the eye candy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so acknowledge it.
And I do kind of love how they kept Ant-Man. He was kind of fanboying still the whole time.
It's because it's character. It's his character.
That's his kid. He's like,
It's like,
just like that.
From what I can tell, Captain, that's America's ass. And like, I love when they're fighting Cap on Cab action, and he like gets nailed, and he's like, I can do this all day. And he's like, I get it.
Like, I get it. Yeah. That was good.
It showed how far he had come from being uptight soldier to just like, let's do this. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Ancient One, this part in the Ancient One where she describes the timeline, how the timeline works, and I think that's really important going forward in the movie, is saying that no, like you may like take one of our Infinity Stones and it's gonna branch off, but if we bring them back, it's gonna keep time together. Yeah. Which I think people are and I think this is gonna allude to what's post the Infinity Saga. Yep. Because in this timeline where she clearly points out, like, without the Infinity Stones, you're gonna open your reality to a lot more dangerous stuff that they're not there to protect anymore. So I think that's where they're gonna go with in the future of the after the Infinity Saga is over with.
Well, because and I like how Bruce at the time was like, he's like, no, he's like, yeah, but what if we bring them back to the time that we took them and it won't create those branches? And she goes, yeah, but I can't just give it up. And he's like, well, then why the hell would Doctor Strange give it up?
Yeah.
And she went, he did? And she's like, well, then there must be a mistake. And he's like, well, duh, he made a mistake. She's like, no, I made a mistake, meaning that she refused to give this up before for something.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work out or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And now she's like, oh, I made a mistake. Now I got to fix this. So that's why she gave it up so willingly.
Yeah.
Because there's no chance that he was going to take it from her.
No. He was already a spirit
of
his
exactly,
body.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to the absolute brilliance of Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and she made a mention, like, he's the best of us all. Like, he's
supposed to save us all. Yeah.
And that was a great moment. Because
and like, as a Doctor Strange fan, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
They lose, and I think this is the Disney Plus Loki series.
Yep.
They lose the Tesseract. Loki steals it and poof, he's
goes
gone.
away. Yep.
And I think that's what the Disney Plus streaming show is going to be, just him in this alternate timeline going through history with the Space Stone and just doing whatever.
Exactly.
So that, and then Ant-Man and the Hulk take the Time Stones, Mind Stones back to the normal timeline.
Yep.
And Cap and Iron Man go back to 1970 to grab the Space Stone and Pym particles.
Yep.
So then we're gonna jump to Thor and Rocket to Asgard.
Yeah.
I like seeing Natalie Portman again. That was fun.
Yes.
Thor had a panic attack, which I think was important.
Because it makes sense.
Yeah, it's like he just kind of couldn't get over it. And I was, as someone that has dealt with anxiety and panic attacks before, I enjoyed the fact that was able to see that.
When you got to remember, he wasn't there originally when his mom died.
Yeah.
So he didn't get to see his mom right before she died. Yep. The last thing that he saw his mom was when they got into that big fight and all that stuff, and he left.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't get to see her, and he was freaking out because of all this stuff. He's like, and he's like, I caused everything. And yeah, he had that panic attack. So I think that was a real person moment.
And Thor, and it was great. This movie has kind of made Thor: The Dark World more relevant because it's universally known as the worst of the.
I love that movie.
And
it's not a fan favorite though.
Yeah, it's not.
Thor and his mom, that was a real touching scene.
Yep.
I love that, and the kind of mom moment where he told him to eat a salad. But the message that she gave Thor about saying is like the best heroes are those that try not to be who they're supposed to be, but be who they really are inside, and or something along the lines. I can't remember.
And I like how she was like, "You're not the Thor that I remember," and
she knew
he's
instantly.
Like, he's like, "Yeah, I am." She's like, "No." She's like, "Trust me. I was raised by witches, and I see with other things than my eyes." And I was like, dang.
I like how they didn't have to keep explaining time travel in moments like that. They're just like, oh no, like it's fine. Like, mystical,
she got it.
Everything.
Yeah, she's Asgardian. She knows. And then we jump to, and then Rocket gets the evil sludge, and they go back. That was of the places, the time travel stuff. I think Asgard was the least important, but I did enjoy seeing Thor and his mom have that moment again.
Yeah,
so I enjoyed Rocket sneaking up on Natalie Portman too.
And I'm kind of glad that they didn't like focus too much on it, and it was like, oh, now Rocket has to battle Natalie Portman. No, because Rocket would have definitely overpowered her, or just been super sneaky and stuck her real quick. Yeah, dirty, but stuck her real quick with the thing, and then got the sludge out of her. Yeah. So.
Can you just picture her pulling out like a laser blaster from Star Wars and just fighting Rocket? He's like, I am Queen Amidala. Disney's finally like merging.
This is what they've wanted all along. And then we jump to Morag.
Yep.
War Machine and Nebula get dropped off. Hawkeye and Black Widow head to Vormir. I totally forgot about Vormir. Like, I was like, okay, they're just going to get the Soul Stone. Okay, whatever. I loved so much the
scene,
the Guardians of the Galaxy Star-Lord singing. What's the song?
It's the
Come get my love.
Yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah, that one. Thank you, Jacob. Like that was just so funny, and then he's just like actually singing it. It's like that's actually really funny.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was genius for the old 2014 Nebula to reconnect with, because she's on the same framework, so you just imagine that those like mindsets would do that.
They would have to.
So it makes total sense why that happened, and it's unfortunate for her, but yeah.
It also pushed the plot line along, and it was the easiest way to keep continuity and to keep things moving along, because there would have been no other way for Thanos just to find out
that they were going back
in time, right?
Exactly.
It made perfect sense, because you're right. They were literally at one point on the same exact time, like a couple planets away or whatever, and they were like, boom, right there. And she's like, I'm having this headache, which was great. And then all of a sudden you could see her, like what she just saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
and then vice versa.
And we're not getting 2018 Thanos where he's like, no, I'm doing this for the world.
Yeah,
like,
this is like when he first started.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have the gauntlet made yet.
No, and he's pissed. Like he's a world dominator. That's what he does. He just takes over the world. So he's getting a younger, more menacing Thanos, which I enjoyed.
Think about it. Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like how when he saw himself get beheaded, he's like, "Oh, this is destiny fulfilled."
Yeah,
and because in the comic books, because he always viewed himself as like a prophet of death, and he wanted to marry death, and so they kept.
That's why he hated Deadpool.
Yeah. And it just went along with that theme, and as you say, it just made him more sinister, more dark, and more like determined. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it shows him. It kind of showed him that he completes his plan.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna work.
And he's like, oh, okay.
These
he's
people
like,
don't.
Yeah, he's like, what they don't know. He's like, and that's why he says I'm inevitable. He's like, I know this is gonna happen, right? So, but now he's like, because at that point he didn't know that they were trying to come back and steal the Infinity Stones. He didn't find out until a little bit later. But I think it was good that it happened. And think about it. You're right. It's before he even. It's like the beginnings of his plan to steal the Infinity Stones, because Gamora's still there. She's still trying to fight for him, right?
Yep.
She thinks he's trying to be some savior of like defeat the bad guys, but she doesn't realize he is the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, and yeah.
And then I enjoyed the moment between Nebula and Rhodey. This is what back when I was saying is I didn't realize Rhodey was going to have much of a screen time as he did, just because of all the ones that are remaining, he's not one of the more popular ones.
He deserved it though.
And
he really did.
I enjoyed their kind of symbiotic moment when she reaches in, her hand dissolves and it's a metallic hand, and he's like
makes the Indiana Jones comment. He's like, whoa, you can't go in there. He's like, this is where the arrows and lasers and everything comes out. She's like, what are you talking about?
I was like, this isn't some 80s movie, you fool.
They made fun of a lot of classics, and it was really fun.
It was good because it made it real. Like, because if we were superheroes and we did that, we would have done the same thing. It would have been like, I've seen Indiana Jones a lot. This is where the snakes come out. Or like, I thought he was going to make another joke when she went to take it. He's like, do we need to find a rock the same weight? Like
I bet you anything that's in like the deleted scenes or something like that.
Probably.
But then she reaches her hand back and it's like completely like dissolved and it's just the metal bones. And he just looks at her like, we deal with what we got, right? Because he's paralyzed and he can't walk anymore. Nebula, War Machine takes Power Stone, activates it, hoping Nebula does the same thing. He heads back.
She tries to, but
she gets the same thing that happened in 24th, which I enjoyed. I thought they kept that continuity really well. So she gets stuck and then gets abducted by Thanos. My favorite scene is the Iron Man and Cap going back to 1970.
Yeah,
I loved that Iron Man, like he quickly found the Power Stone, but he runs into his dad, and I love that every single time we've seen Howard Stark. Yes, I did. Sorry.
The Tesseract,
The Tesseract. Every time we see Howard Stark in every movie, he's a different actor.
Yep.
So
or it's the same actor and they've aged him
down
because they're pretty. I don't know what technology they use, but they've aged everyone.
Yeah, they do it so well.
Yeah.
And I love that he was able to tell his dad he was a grandfather. Like I just one of those small moments that like he's like, wow, like he got to tell his dad that he's a grandpa. Like not really, but he got Tony got to feel that way inside of him.
Well, even the moment at the end, he's like, my dad always told me that no amount of money will ever, give you like perfect happiness or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, it's a smart man.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, he got to tell his dad all that kind of stuff, and that's that was touching because my dad's my best friend, and that would just whew.
If you lost your dad and like you got to see what your dad was like before you had like if
exactly
because
it's just hard to keep yourself composed. Like
you're your dad's first child, right? Like
technically, birth biological child.
So I would imagine what it would be like to go back and see my dad right before he had Steve and Steve, here's your plug and
Steve.
And to see your dad right before, just how they would act. And it's like, I think that's exactly. I think it's moments where we don't really get to see from fathers.
My dad was a frat bro, so I would love that. But I like how they got their closure in the middle of the movie, and they didn't all try to make it all happen at the very end.
Exactly, yeah.
I think people are skipping over this point because they don't realize it. Cap grabs 4 Pym particles when he leaves.
Yep.
The 2, so obviously to send Iron Man and Cap back to what are the other 2? We're gonna get to those, but I think that's
that was one thing that they highlighted, but you don't really pick up on it until the end of the movie.
End of the movie, yeah.
Yep.
Then we jump straight to Vormir, and one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Yep.
Red Skull shows up again. I'm always a big fan of Red Skull. He's my favorite of the MCU villains. I love Red Skull. And
I like how they are able to preserve him and like make him so relevant, and you're not mad about it.
You don't need Hugo Weaving.
He's not like Loki, where it's like, oh, okay, like you keep coming back.
Well, it's funny because like I try to rewatch some of the older movies, and I watch Captain America where Red Skull goes into the. I'm like looking in the screen, like, do you see it? Do you see
Vormir?
this? Yeah,
where is it?
Is Vormir there? Oh, I think that was it. You know what I mean? Because he just goes, man.
Subtle things.
Yeah.
Like ancillary note. How awkward was that scene when Cap returns the Soul Stone to to Vormir? It was like,
I know. Could you? Yeah. Just think about it. Like he's going back to return all of them, and he goes, "Oh,
that's where you went."
Hey, man.
Oh, I don't need
no hard feelings. High five. We saved the universe. We're good.
Exactly. The moment where I was 100% bought in that it was Hawkeye going out. Because I just assumed that's kind of his character.
He didn't have anything to live for. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Black Widow had a movie coming out.
Yep.
So I was just like, so like their fight back and forth, but then it kept me guessing. He's like, oh, maybe she's gonna jump, and then like he jumps. I was like, okay, I'm here for it, like whatever. And then the last second, she has the moment of heroism and launches his grappling hook back up, and she falls. And I think this goes back to Jeremy Renner's performance in this movie. Just his eyes of seeing his best friend look at him and be like, it's like, no, you can be a better man and you can save your family.
Yep.
And like him just realizing like this moment of like his friend is sacrificing himself.
Yep.
And it was another moment where the second time seeing it, that one brought me to tears that time. It was just like the Black Widow character. It's been fun to see her grow as she's kind of, and she portrayed it in the beginning of the movie saying that like she doesn't have anything. This was her family, and that this is kind of the perfect way to close her story. Is that she sacrificed herself to save humanity and the universe. So
pretty much, And then fast forward to them all going back because they all have the stones now.
Yeah.
And you see them coming back through the quantum realm and boom. And then everyone's like, hey, we did it. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. But now Nebula's different, but nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right? And Black Widow's not there.
Yep. And
Hawkeye Hawkeye drops to his knees. He gets so sad. And then Hulk's like, where is she? And then, yeah.
And it's funny because I love that because you could tell Hulk still cared about her so much. And probably had a lot of residual feelings. And you could tell when he threw the bench across the lake and they were all in despair and they were distraught about it.
Pseudo funeral.
Yep, exactly.
And then, did you enjoy how quickly they were able to create an infinity gauntlet? I feel like we shouldn't have stayed like that shouldn't be a plot point, but like I was like, oh, okay, they just made something.
Well, I think it's because they've seen it, right? And they know what kind of power the Infinity Stones have, so I think they were able to harness that, right?
Well,
so
it's like the time travel. Like Tony Stark had probably worked on it before they'd seen the Infinity Stone, and he probably had thought about it in the 5 years.
And I did like how it was the Iron Man version, which I'm pretty sure we're going to see 1,000 of those coming out soon.
Oh yeah.
and like it was made to fit Tony's hand,
but it could adjust.
But then the Hulk was like, I'm doing this. He's like, I'm the only one that can handle it. He's like, most of them are gamma rays, and Thor's like, I need to do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
Turn everything into beer.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
which would not be the worst thing.
And then the Hulk goes to put it on. It's like, and it goes around his hand. I'm like, that's awesome, because that's exactly what it would have been if Tony Stark really would have,
Yeah, exactly. And when I loved how it took like everything for for the Hulk to
snap it,
to get it there. It was like to get the snap. So I enjoyed that. And then the subtlety of just like he completely loses his left hand. Like it's
like burnt to
and it's not as muscular. You could tell there's a difference in size. So it's like, and it's he's very basically scarred up on that one side. So but then you hear the ring and you see Hawkeye turn around.
But while that's happening though, it 2014 Nebula is going and she's like doop, doop,
opens
doop,
up the
doop,
time
doop,
portal.
And that's kind of one thing that bugged me. Like, how the hell does she know how to open the portal?
I figure that because she's part robot.
Well, she plugged in her,
and that's what I figured. She plugged it in and figured it out because she is part robot. So that's why I was like, okay, yeah, I can see that.
And they probably didn't have it encrypted because they weren't expecting.
That's true.
But also, I just want to bring up how Hulk barely being able to manage having the Infinity Gauntlet on just shows the power difference and the durability that Thanos has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he could just wield it and it didn't do anything to him.
Yes.
Yeah, like he had it, and once he had that last stone, it did do the shock thing, but he was like, it was more of a yes, I finally have it. And then he was like getting ready to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, when the Hulk put it on, he was like, ah.
And he's probably the most durable character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe besides Thanos. So
maybe Captain Marvel, but you can.
Valid.
I want you guys to go back this next.
He wears it next. Sorry.
This next scene of when Hawkeye gets a phone call. I want you next time you see it just to listen to the music. Alan Silvestri's score. I've listened to this score probably three times full.
Yeah,
it's an incredible score. I think he'll be nominated and win best score when Oscars come around. But there's just beautiful scene. You see the birds come back, and then he answers the phone, and it's his wife, and
she's like, "Where'd you go?"
Well, she's been. I think they know that they've been gone for 5 years because they kind of. Well, it's hard to portray.
Spider-Man kind of hints at it,
exactly.
But he only hints at it because Doctor Strange says it's been 5 years. They need our help.
Yeah,
we just went really far. Well, not too much far, but we kind of went into the future there a little bit. But
and then he looks up and it's like,
well, I like how Scott was like, guys, I think it worked, and then all of a sudden Thanos' ship is right there
and rains fire.
So and the impression I got from that is that Thanos wiped out half of all living creatures, animals included, which doesn't make much sense to me because I feel like if you want resources to be plentiful, you would just wipe out like the sentient beings.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
So that kind of, I was like, oh, that's weird.
I don't think he has that kind of control. Like I think he said just half
of everything. And
are
we like shocked that Ant-Man and Hawkeye survived this?
No.
It's like
at this point, no. Like I knew they totally were going to survive.
But they were ground zero. You saw Ant-Man get just
blown back.
Exactly.
But his defenses though is he went super small.
Yeah, he shrinks. Whereas I don't know how Hawkeye survived. I'm not gonna think about it too much. I just thought it was weird that he did. I thought it was really sad. Hulk, War Machine, and Rocket. Like Hulk you can tell that he's not as strong right now because he's obviously weak.
Exactly.
And War Machine, his suit is malfunctioning, so he can't get up. And Rocket is just yelping. He's like,
he's like, made me so sad. I was like, no. It's like when your dog's about to die. You're like, no.
Stop. So
but I did like how he got out of his suit and then crawled over
the wheelbarrow.
And he used the thing to get him out. That was good.
And Hawkeye finds the gauntlet. He kind of becomes the carrier of the gauntlet from now on, and then he's running away from the creepy alien dogs.
It reminded me of like Resident Evil.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, oh. Yeah.
Then the trio make their way outside of the building, the rubble, and it's Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, and they're just like, and Thor's just sitting there with his hands in his sweater pocket, just staring at Thanos.
Well, I like that Nebula was like, I did it and whatever, and he's like, bring me the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, all right, and she takes off. She's like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm just gonna wait.
Do what I do best.
Yeah, he's like, I'll do what I do best. And he just sits there because he knew they were coming for him. And I was like, oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So if Thor would have been in better shape if he wouldn't have been going through this emotional crisis, and he had Stormbreaker, I mean, would that even really have been a fight?
I
honestly think it would have, because I think Thanos, I mean, he's a Titan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he's a Titan, but I mean, Thor, even with Thanos of the Infinity Gauntlet, was able to break through that with Stormbreaker, and if he would have just aimed a little higher, he would have killed him.
Yeah. Maybe if Thor was at his 100% peak, it would have not been a long, like, Thor wouldn't have got his butt kicked as fast.
And in Infinity War, him and Thanos never fought until the very end, where they ran into each other and Thor threw the
thing. Yeah.
So like, I wouldn't say that was a fight between Thor and Thanos. I would say that he just kind of threw his.
But he's capable of killing Thanos, which most of the Avengers aren't.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying, I enjoyed the fact that he kept the chubbiness. He tied his beard.
The suit expanded.
Yeah, well, and like when he put his suit on, he was like, and then his suit came on, and then all of a sudden his beard was tied up. It was all nice and braided, and I'm like, oh, thank you, electricity.
Like that fight was really. I enjoyed the fight.
Oh, that was
the
great.
Three of them going back and forth. That was really cool. But you could tell like Thanos is just on another level from the three of them, and then you kind of see. It was bound to come down to Cap and Thanos, because
it had to.
Like Thor throws his hammer and knocks out Iron Man, so Iron Man's knocked out, and then Cap is kind of in the background right now, and then Thor is about to get his...
Well, the same thing that happened to Thanos. He's about to get stormed.
Did you
realize
him?
It was in the same spot. Thanos didn't know this, but it was in the same spot, and I was like, oh man, I was like, that's perfect. And then all of a sudden, you see the
hammer,
and I'm like, where did the? Oh my God, no!
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. And I was telling Jacob, it's like,
there's two moments that I was waiting for. Yeah,
I totally forgot about. Like, I wanted that moment to happen, and when it happened. I don't cheer often, like voluntarily, but like my body just yelped in excitement. I was like, yeah!
Absolutely, yeah.
I turned around.
I did the same thing, yeah. I didn't care. I was like, yes! And then Thor was like, I knew it was going to happen.
I knew it.
Which is funny because Thor was worried in Ultron when he saw it move a little. He's like,
oh yeah. And then Vision he's tossed. He's like, here.
Oh, yeah. So I got over it.
I miss Vision still. Anyways.
Oh.
And the fight between Thanos and Cap, holy cow!
Dude,
he throws
Cap whooped his ass.
He throws his shield and then he throws Mjolnir and it hits it just like in Avengers 1 and does the shockwave and it catches the hammer again and brings lightning down on him. I was like, that was an insane 30
That was a combo, yeah. If you were playing MK11, that was definitely combo bonus right there.
We are not sponsored, but
yeah, we're not sponsored. We should be. MK11.
And if you want to give us all free copies, and then. I love the homage to Ultron where Thanos destroys Cap's shield and it cuts
also,
it
can
in
we just
half.
say he just tore through a vibranium shield with just sheer force.
Yeah.
And whatever
I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my
double-bladed sword thing. I don't know. But I enjoyed seeing the homage to Ultron. So when you go back and watch Ultron, you're like, oh, okay, that's where that comes from.
Yep.
And then I want to get this. I want to screenshot it. I want a painting of it. I want something, and I want it on my wall. This framed shot of Cap and it's a widescreen of Cap on the one side, and then the army of Thanos on the other.
Yeah.
And it's shot beautifully. And like I remember seeing that. I was like, I want that.
Well, and what I loved is that they brought all the stuff back that Thanos originally brought to Earth.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to explain it because we've seen it in the other movies, and it was like those pods,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden the big creatures that came out in 2012 that in Thanos' timeline hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So that's why he still had those big giant like creatures or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything that came out, every bad person or every bad guy that came out in the movies that had to deal with Thanos was right there.
Like
and
Iron
I'm like,
Claw and
yeah,
all the
like
individuals.
all of them,
Yeah.
even his little posse. You know, the guy that the telekinetic guy, and then the other people. I can't remember their names, but his like posse that got destroyed in Infinity War and killed. They're there now, and you're like, oh crap, man.
Like how are they? And I sat there, and that was the one moment I totally forgot about the snap.
Yep.
That was kudos to the Russo brothers with that scene, because I was like, how are they going to manage to do this? And then you hear the crackle. It's like Cap. I was like, wait, who is that?
I know, yeah.
It's like on your left, and I got chills. I was like, oh,
I know. He's like, hey,
Sam.
Yeah. He's like on your left, and then the portals opens.
And Doctor Strange is being all bad as he is, and brings in. And I love the fact the first person we see was Black Panther.
Yep.
And Okoye and Shuri, and they walk in, and then the portal opens to Titan, and you see the Guardians walk through, and then you see Doctor Strange walk through, and then you see Spider-Man just swing in. I was like, oh, here we go.
Oh,
and then
so good.
the Asgardians show up, and then the Wasp shows up, and I've never like been like that excited to see the Wasp in my life. I was like, yeah, the Wasp.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Rescue drops in the last second.
Yep.
And I was like, here we go.
There it is.
So.
And then he said it. This was the second thing I was waiting for. I was like, I swear, because he almost said it in, was it Ultron?
Yes.
Yeah, he almost said it in Ultron, and I'm like, damn. And then and then it was like all of a sudden he's like, Avengers, and I'm like, say it.
Oh, say
it.
Please.
Say it. If he didn't say it, I was gonna throw my popcorn at the little kids in front of me. And then he said, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Like, we could have, if they would have, they waited for the Avengers Assemble.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they waited so long, because if they would have done it in the big circle scene where in 2012, where they're kind of in a circle and Cap says Avengers Assemble, we probably would have lost our minds then.
Oh yeah.
And then in 2015 or 14, when Ultron came in, they could have said it in that scene as well, and we probably would have lost our minds then. But the Russo brothers knew, and Kevin Feige knew to be like, no, you think you want it here.
Yeah, we're going to tease you a little bit.
But wait till 2019 when you get it right here. And it's
just the climax, perfect. It wouldn't have meant as much.
Yeah, exactly. It was an awesome feeling. And then like you get the montage of Hawkeye running around. He's like, what do I do with this? And then Black Panther's like, give it to me.
And he takes it.
Impersonation.
Yeah, and he takes it, and then he starts doing what Black Panther does best. But then you're like, okay, Black Panther is strong and he's fast, but he's not that good, like that fast. And then all of a sudden, Spider-Man's like, I'll take it. Yeah. And then he takes. I
don't want to skip past the moment between. I didn't write it down, but the moment between Iron Man and Spider-Man when Iron Man finds out that he's alive again.
Like just gave him a big hug.
Like that was the moment. It was like, man, Robert Downey Jr. is on another level in this movie because like usually like that the character of Iron Man would have made a joke or something like that, but he's just like, you could tell the weight of this kid that he so loved, like a son that he never had, and like his protege, like, and he just sees him and he just hugs him.
Well, I like how Peter Parker kept his like youngness to him. How he's like,
oh, this is nice.
He's like, you know, hugging him. He's like, Mr. Stark. He's like, remember when we turned it to dust and then blah blah blah. He's like, and then Doctor Strange was there. He's like, it's like I woke up from a nap and Doctor Strange was there, and he said, it's been 5 years and we need to go help them. And they started doing the whirly thing, and and then here you are. Yeah. So I love that part.
Like keep it to Spider-Man's character.
Exactly.
If outside of the main character, Cap is my all-time favorite, but I'd say Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are my next two that I think are my favorite. So I loved that Tom Holland creation of Spider-Man.
Well, it was a good redemption for Iron Man, because I feel like he probably felt like losing Peter Parker was his biggest failure, and he held that held onto that. And then to see that, I think he finally felt the weight lifted, and then he was able to do what he did at the end of the movie, because he was just like clear minded, like, I can do this.
He's the reason why Peter Parker is as far along as he is, because he gave him the suit, and he gave him the confidence to be like, no, you can be an Avenger like us. And then when Infinity War happened, he gave him the suit to be on the ship with him, and he told him, "It's like, hey, no, you got to go home. Like, I don't want you here." But he followed him anyway, and got him on the plane. Got him, and then it just felt like it was his fault that this
the kid was there. Yeah,
the teenager died because of me. And like that scene in Infinity War where
he's like, I don't want to go.
I don't want to go. That was the hardest scene in that movie. So
like I'm not sad about it now, but oh man, it
hurts. It
was tough.
Too soon.
And then going back, Spider-Man is swinging around, getting on.
And he activates instant kill. I love that part.
I was like, such a good throwback because I was always curious in Homecoming, what is instant kill? I'm glad we got to see it.
Exactly.
And then
I like the overwhelm of the insta kill though. Like he was just surrounded by a pile of bodies and he couldn't move.
Yeah, and it's like it's trying to kill all of them, but then he gets like shot.
Well, and then
shot out of the sky or something when he was.
Well, we skipped a moment where I got goosebumps. We're not there yet.
Which part?
No, we are there. So when Scarlet Witch.
Oh yes!
Shows up and she's like, "You took everything from me.
I don't know who you are."
I love that because the continuity. He's like, "I have no idea who you are," and
like,
she's like, "You'll find out."
I was like, I chilled.
Yeah.
I was like, "Get him, Scarlet."
Yeah.
I feel like people don't realize just like how strong she is.
Yeah,
and
she
like,
showed it there. Like it was impressive.
She was going to like wreck Thanos before he called for fire from the sky.
You killed my husband or my boo.
Yeah.
Like I was.
That's the exact wordage,
Yeah.
Brady.
Hashtag rest in peace, Vision. We love you.
In her Russian accent.
Yeah.
And then Thanos is being just like destroyed by her, and he's like,
she literally would have crushed him to death if he didn't like rain fire or some shit.
Rain fire, and then that's where like the Spider-Man is going through the air, and then he gets knocked down and kind of gets knocked out for a little bit, and then out of nowhere. The cannons start pointing towards I knew exactly what it was when it happened.
Well, at first, because as soon as they twisted, I'm like, what just happened? And then they started shooting, and they're like, what are they shooting at? And I went,
no.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Like, this is it. This
is where she comes in, man.
And just totally just cuts it like
I'm not
butter.
going to lie. As soon as I saw her, I was like, yes!
It's like, take that.
Because you knew they needed her because this was looking really bad.
Yep, it was.
And she takes out the ship. I don't agree with the physics of the ship landing in the water and just like.
Well, and the waves went really high, but I think it was just so far back because like the water started coming over.
And Doctor Strange. And then
Doctor Strange was like
pushing it back.
He's like, I need to do the Flash thing where I make a tornado.
Just like
So he was busy doing that, but I just thought it was funny that we didn't get to see the like there was no tidal wave or anything like that. And then. Let's see where are we at. And then we get to the part where they're trying to get the gauntlet and Captain Marvel grabs the gauntlet from Peter Parker. I thought that was a really nice
scene.
Like,
She's like, hi, I'm Peter Parker. Who are you?
She's like, hi, Peter Parker. I was like, oh. Like, that was a moment I was like, okay, I like you.
She's just like your fun aunt.
Well, then and then the best part, he's like, do you guys need some help? And she's like, I think we got this. And then it was like all the women. I was like,
I thought of my little sister.
Good scene.
Oh yeah,
in that very scene because her and I are huge.
I wanted to be a woman at that point. Like, think about it. Captain Marvel. If Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and we'll just say Black Widow and the chick from Black Panther, Okoye. Those four could take out anybody.
Yeah,
that's it
easily.
But they went the extra mile. They had those four. Then Valkyrie showed up.
Valkyrie
was a nice touch, and I love her.
The Wasp showed up.
Wasp.
I don't get how she made it from the van to that scene.
She's the Wasp.
Whatever.
She can fly, Brady.
Yeah, and she can turn really small.
Whatever. And then Rescue shows up, and then that was just like a moment where I was like,
oh yeah,
all right, here we go, ladies.
Hashtag girl power, man.
Yeah, and they another cold chill moment. And then they almost get it there, and Thanos just hurls his scepter knife thing, and it just destroys the quantum laser thing. I bet there's an actual name for it, but whatever. Yeah. And then Captain Marvel loses the gauntlet, like it goes flying back. So then that's when Iron Man and him run toward it together, and he kind of backhand Iron Man. He gets thrown back, and then he puts on the glove and just and then Thor, Cap, and I think Iron Man come back and they start fighting again. And Thor has Mjolnir and
Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
And
You remember Mjolnir, but not Stormbreaker.
And then he goes, "Here, you have the small one," and he tosses it to Captain America.
That was a good moment. But when this is when Cap and Thor are choke holding him and trying to bring it so they can stab him before.
Oh yeah.
And then he uses the gauntlet again, throws him away, and then he's about to snap, and Captain Marvel comes out of nowhere and just holds him down.
I like how she does the same thing Captain America did in Infinity War, and then all of a sudden she smiles and just bends his hand back.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I was like, she's about to break his fucking
Well,
hand.
I like how he hit her, and it just sounded like he was punching metal, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
just bounced off.
He headbutted her.
Because he headbutted her and she didn't move, and he was like, what?
Yeah.
And then he went to punch, and she's like, yeah, no.
It's like, yeah. And then I liked how he had to take off the Power Stone.
Just to knock her, yeah.
A wail on her. And then that was the scene where you turn Tony's laying there and he sees Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange holds up the
Hang on, pause. Before you say that, I like how when Doctor Strange came through the portals first and he goes to Tony and Tony's like, he's like, you said you saw all this stuff. He's like, is this the one? And Doctor Strange's like, if I tell you what's going to happen, it's not going to happen. Right. And then fast forward to this.
And then he holds
But
up.
he was already holding up the one finger, but then he just kind of like moved it towards Tony.
No. He was looking at Tony and Tony was like, and he
wasn't holding it up first while he was doing magic, though?
No, he wasn't.
Because he wasn't doing magic. Like he had gotten knocked back.
Doctor Strange?
Yeah. Well, Doctor Strange was still
he was holding the water.
Yeah, he was doing the water thing. But then like he looked at Tony and they like made eye contact. And Tony was like, he's like this. And then Doctor Strange went,
this is the moment.
Like this, and then
that's
when
his finger's already up.
No. That's when it clicked for Tony. He's like, all right, and then that's when he put the gauntlet on.
Well, and then he runs towards Thanos and he kind of grabs his hand, and this is where people are like, oh, how did he get the gauntlets back? It's his glove on his hand.
Exactly.
Right? It's like he could like dislodge it and like have it, and that was a nice moment where he like, and then Thanos goes like he tosses Iron Man to the side, and he's like,
and he's like,
I am inevitable. And then he looks, and then
he's like, "Oh, it's just my normal hand."
He's like, "Oh no!" Like,
no! Tony took all the stones out. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same gauntlet, so he still has it. He's like, "I am inevitable," and it snaps and looks. He doesn't have it, and then one of the best scenes, like to end a character, he gets the gauntlet and he gets it, and the stones come on his hand, and he just the phrase to start the MCU, he rebuttals to I am inevitable, saying I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
Snaps. And then I love the montage of everyone just turning
all
to ash.
All of Thanos' people, just
turning to ash. And
it makes me think what Tony thought of to do, like, like if he just thought of all of Thanos' people, or I don't, what I mean?
Is it that simple when you have the Infinity Gauntlet that you just a simple thought and then
I would hope
that's
so.
So that Thanos explains it in the beginning. He's like, it's what you really want to happen, like what you truly feel. All you have to do is it's a snap of the finger. That's how easy it is. And that's why he's like, I want to get rid of half of the universe because it's gonna fix everything, right? And that's why Tony was like, I want to get rid of all these bad guys. Boom.
And I liked how Thanos was last. He just kind of sat down and you waited for him to fade away.
See, that's the thing. I didn't think at first that Thanos was gonna just
fade away.
I thought he was just gonna be like defeated.
Yeah.
And then they were gonna kill him
then they were gonna kill him.
I was kind of hoping for that, but
I was hoping Thor came up and been like wham, but then he just disintegrated. I was like, all right, that
and then you see Iron Man come back. You don't see him yet, but he walks up the hill and kind of plants himself on against the plane, and you see, and then it's when you dawn on you, and then his entire left side of his body is just scarred and looks like it's reduced to ash.
Yep.
And then I loved how the first person that saw him was Rhodey.
Yep.
It was kind of like a warrior kind of thing where he doesn't say anything to him, but like he's like he's gonna go, and he's just like, and he walks away.
Yep.
And then
Spider-Man comes up.
Man, I lost it as soon as Spider-Man showed up, man. It's just like the father-son relationship there is just so real to me.
Well, think about it. Spider-Man died.
Yeah.
In his timeline.
Yeah.
Right? He went to dust. He comes back for what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And now Iron Man's dead. He's like, that's a lot. And like you said, and like you said, that's his second father figure that he's now lost.
Yeah.
Because of all this.
And he does it, and Tom Holland does a great job portraying the little scared kid. This kid's in high school still, so he just like freaks out saying, we did it, we finally won, like you did it. And then he just breaks down. And then I loved like the subtlety of Pepper, just just like it's like the motherly nature.
She comes,
of her.
I loved her in this movie, and she was also one of the women in that little montage.
Yes,
that's really great.
I was like, I knew I'm forgetting somebody, and I loved her new suit.
Yeah.
How she just shows up and starts kicking butt with Tony. That was great.
Oh yeah, and those are awesome moments. But she does a great job at like kind of okaying Tony. He's like, hey, no, we're gonna be okay. Like meaning like her family, his daughter, they're gonna be okay. And it's time for you to rest. You did all this for us. And I loved how the Russo brothers didn't make Tony like sad, like he wasn't crying, but like it was us reacting to the emotions of everyone else that made it so much more emotional for us all. Like seeing Spider-Man sad was what broke me, and then Pepper just being that moral, like that strong backbone.
It's because she got it. You know, she understood. She's like, you know what, Tony? Because if she would have been hysterical, I don't think Tony would. Tony would have just. He would have died in the wrong way. Yeah. She's like, we're good. We're going to be great. Because that's all he cared about, right? Yep. She's like, we're going to be safe. She's like, you can finally rest.
He didn't want to lose those two. He said, I can't lose this future that I have now because I lucked out.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's his whole arc, is that he wants to protect people. And to know that he finally did it, I think is the most beautiful way for him to go out. And then when he passes away and passes on and Pepper loses it, oh, man, that got me going again, man. It was so sad. And then a pan to Cap and Thor like react to it. They're crying, and then they quickly jump to the montage of everyone going back to their families. And I thought it was, and I think it's going to be interesting going forward, is that the Peter Parker going back to high school thing.
See, that's the only plot hole I found,
which I thought was interesting.
It's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Why are they all back in high school?
I imagine that all these kids were dusted.
Yes.
And that's why I think that they knew how long the 5 years has been, because it looked like Ned like knew that his Peter and him had been gone for a long time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I don't know if Ned was. Did he turn into dust? Because I didn't see. Yeah, we didn't see that.
He didn't age at all either. So if he didn't, he's still the same age.
Yeah, and that's the only plot hole I didn't like. That, and I know why they did it, because they had to lead right into Away From Home or whatever the next one is.
Far From Home.
Far From Home. Thank you. And because that's supposed to happen, like according to the people who did that one, it's like that's supposed to happen right at the end of Endgame. Yeah. Is that Far From Home is like. He goes away, he goes back to school, everything's trying to go back to normal, and that's why he doesn't even bring a suit. He's like, you know what, I'm kind of done.
Yeah, it would make sense. He would take a break from all that. You know, I just thought of this. The 5 years have gone by, so I imagine like half the kids that were in his graduating class are 5 years, and they're out of high school now. Yeah. And the kids that are 5 years younger than him are now his age, and I wonder if this is how they bring in the Osborns and Harry.
Oh, maybe.
Because he doesn't know who Harry is.
That's true.
So what if...
But Harry was always older than him, though.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
I mean, that was the Sony version of Spider-Man, so
I'd be curious to see...
Rest in peace.
Exactly.
I'd be curious to see if that's how they bring in Harry. Now he's like of his same age, and they're...
we'll see how they explain it.
That was one thing I wasn't sure how they're going to explain that. But I did like the moment between him and Ned. That was really that was
good. And then the voiceover recording. The hologram thing that he did for his kid.
I love you 3000. That was just like it was like then that's such a gut punch, man. He's saying goodbye to his daughter, and then the montage of all of the heroes. I thought that was awesome. It was
at his funeral.
Yeah, it was a nerd moment for us all, where like they placed the fact the Tony has a heart thing on his casket, and they push it off. And then it goes to Cap, and then
it goes
Thor,
to everybody,
and then just kind of montages everybody that's in the.
Did you
MCU.
Notice at the? Did
Iron
you
Man
notice?
3 kid?
Yeah, the Iron Man 3 kid. Did you notice that kid was in the back?
Yeah.
So right behind, what was it? Winter Soldier and those guys.
He was one of the last ones.
The stand right before you see Captain Marvel on the stairs and Nick Fury show up. That kid, everyone's like, who the hell is that kid? It's the Iron Man 3 kid, the one that helps him. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's right, because I was like, that kid looks familiar. And as they went to Captain Marvel, I went, Iron Man 3 kid. And my friends went, oh.
And then Happy. I loved the Happy moment because he's the director from Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
So it was nice seeing like that moment between him and the daughter, saying he loves cheeseburgers. I'm gonna make you all the cheeseburgers you possibly can.
Like, between tacos and cheeseburgers, I'm starving now on this show.
I went through the whole big bucket of popcorn.
and then Cap says goodbye to Falcon and Bucky. I liked the fact that Bucky knew he wasn't coming back.
Oh, he knew.
He's like, I'm gonna miss you, buddy. Like,
well, because I mean, he's known Cap his entire life. Like they're the only two that are the same age, right? Mm-hmm. Like Cap's 90 or something like that. But like he knew, he could just tell. Right, and that was going to happen, and that's why he wasn't surprised. And it's funny because I didn't realize they were going to do that until they're like, "Where'd he go?" And he's like, "Oh, he missed his timestamp." And I went, "I know exactly what's about to happen."
Yep. And then this is where people are kind of losing their minds when it comes to continuity, and because of the things that they set up. And I think that's why it's important to look back of why he grabbed 4 of the pin particles instead of the original 2, because I think he's going to be in a different timeline. He's going to alter time because he's going to be in the 40s instead of actual current continuity. So I think that he just lives his life in this different timeline.
Yep.
And life goes on, and then when he knows that like he can't come back and they can't push him to come back anymore, he activates one of the pin particles and goes to the bench to tell them, it's like, hey, I lived a happy life.
Exactly.
Like,
I think he saved the little thing and a vial of pin particles. He went back to Peggy.
Yep.
I'm thinking it's the post crash and he goes back because they were still in love, right? Like all that kind of stuff. I think it was post crash. He came back and was like, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. He may have explained it to her.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not far-fetched. She's a SHIELD agent. Like, she gets it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he was like, you know what? I just showed up. Right? I survived the crash.
And like, let's live this life now. Like, let's not worry about it.
Yeah. And that's why I think the moment of them in the house was so nice, because I was like, oh, that's what he needed. I was like, finally, he's going to smash.
And that's...
Good Lord. 21 movies later.
21 movies later, 22.
Yeah. 22.
That's cat. Like I said, the cat movies are my favorite. And I'm the weird one that I think. Besides, I think Endgame is my favorite, but besides that, I think the first Avengers is my favorite of all the MCU movies, and it's because of that romance between Peggy and him. And I think the fact that he got his happy ending and with her, I think that was a real nice moment. Perfect way to not kill off Cap, but also kind of send him on his way.
Exactly.
Well, he was. I feel like he was never happy, and he never really belonged in that time.
Yeah.
So he finally, after all this time, finally got what he wanted.
And that was the kind of the arc in the first Avenger, is that he sacrificed his life for war and to save people and he was the incredible sacrifice that he just would live a life of war for the rest of his life. And the fact that he finally got to retire from it is something that I really enjoyed to see.
Yeah. And then I think, like you said, I think when he got to be an old man, and either the point where it's already now Peggy has died.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, now I need to go tell these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Boop, beep.
And then or maybe she's still alive, and after he gets done telling him, he has the last pin particle. And he can,
well, that's what I'm saying. The only way he could go back, though, because he used the pin particle because he has the 2.
Yeah.
So you can use one to go back, and then use the second one, or the last one, to go back to Peggy.
Yeah, if she was still alive. But, yeah.
Well, or it makes sense that's almost his timeline because he's that old now.
Yeah, so he
you know what I mean.
There.
So he just stays there.
And there's also the idea that maybe that's the plan was he always goes back to Peggy.
Yeah,
and that because he never finds out who she marries in Winter Soldier.
Nope.
But you think that'd be pretty easy for him to figure out. But anyway, so that was one of the things that I always laughed at people. I'm like, oh, the continuity doesn't make any sense. But that was a long walk around this movie. We all hated it, right?
The Endgame?
Yeah.
Endgame. Oh, yeah, it was the worst movie ever.
I threw a fit. I went to the manager. I wanted my money back. Yeah. I left a terrible review.
Yep.
Got a
manager. They gave me 3D glasses and it didn't even work. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, this is...
and sorry, we didn't even hit on the one part. He gives Sam the shield.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm also confused because, does he have an extra super soldier serum that he can give Sam? Or, is he just going to fly around with his wings and shield?
So in the comic books, Sam does become Captain America.
But is he strong?
But he's not strong like Cap.
So he still has his wings, just a shield now.
Yeah, he's just Captain America.
I think he retires the Falcon.
He doesn't retire the Falcon part. He just does. He's Captain America now.
He just has the shield.
And that's I don't know how they're going to explain it. I think it was more of a symbolic thing. Like, I don't think they're going to have a, Sam Captain America movie. Like, if they do,
pursue that.
If they do, he'll probably show up in, Black Panther 2.
Well,
because I think that's when they're going to take Bucky and turn him into White Wolf, because they've already talked about it in Infinity War, because they call him White Wolf.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier have a Disney TV show in production, so that might be where they go with that.
But Sam does become Captain America, but he doesn't have the same strength. He just has the same like fighting and all that kind of stuff. He's just the Captain America.
But
now.
The strength kind of makes the fighting for Captain America.
It does.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious why people think like they're all up in arms. Like, why is Falcon the Captain America? And I was like, who do you think he should give it to? Bucky?
No,
the terrorist.
Give it to Bucky that you need to say 8 Russian words
they
or 8
that.
random.
Wakanda,
That's right.
Sure
She fixed that.
But still, like, and
he's pretty unstable. He's never been really committed to anything. Whereas, Falcon was his protege and his best friend,
and literally the perfect soldier. Like he's done nothing wrong.
Oh yeah.
And when it comes to the 2, I would pick Sam in a heartbeat, just because like Winter Soldier's killed many people. If you see the guy as a terrorist walking around with a shield, it's like, why did Captain America pick that guy?
Exactly.
Whereas Sam is clearly the better choice. Anyway, so that was I love this movie. I'll probably see it like 3 or 4 more times before I'm done with it. And
I definitely want to go watch it again, because there's always something you miss when you watch it the first time, because you're so enthralled. Yep. But then when you watch it like 2, 3, 4, 18 more times, then you can
be a little more introspective with it.
Exactly.
And analyze it a little better.
So, I'm gonna be on this bandwagon, but I'm gonna push it for the Return of the King, Best Picture nod. Because kind of like the culmination of all these movies. I feel like the Avengers, Marvel deserves this. And I think that it has a legit shot to be nominated for Best Picture, and
Absolutely.
I think it has a legit shot to be to win Best Picture. I think Iron Man deserves to be nominated. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. deserves to be nominated for Best Actor. I don't know if it will happen, but I'd love to see it. And Alan Silvestri will win for Best Score, because it's an amazing score.
100%.
Well, I want to thank you guys for talking nerdy with me for
dude.
an hour
Thanks for
and
having
40
me on.
minutes.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow, it's a long episode.
That's half of what the movie is. So
hell yeah. Well, we recapped it. Now you don't have to watch it.
Exactly. So
just kidding. Go watch it.
Thank you for all that listen. And Jim, we're sorry to miss you this time. But tune in tomorrow. We got our show, our full show tomorrow with Warren Workman. So I'm excited to see him.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Nick. How do the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under several different things. But if you look for the Dapper Deadpool, you can find me.
The Dapper Deadpool. That suits you.
Yeah, I have a red suit and a mask and an actual Deadpool suit, so it's kind of nice. If you find me on the Dapper Deadpool, you can find all my other ones. Nick Perez, all that kind of stuff. So you can also hear me on the radio, X96, from between the fabulous hours of midnight and 5 a.m. and then Sundays from 6 to 9.
Perfect. And then Jacob, how do the people find you if they want to find you?
Just my Instagram handle. It's Mr_JBuck, and I appreciate followers. So
and I don't make a point that I had Mr. Clarkster first before Jacob was Mr_JBuck. I was Mr_Clarkster on Instagram and Twitter. And
Brady's like Sony Spider-Man, and I am Marvel Spider-Man. So he might have had movies first, but sorry, Clark, I love you.
And you can follow us on our Instagram, on the Movie Hour, and like us on Facebook. We just crossed 700 today, so
hell yeah.
Cool feeling.
Heck
cool.
yeah. Oh, it's already there.
And this has been Movie Hour. Thank you for sticking around, for those that actually stuck around.
Yeah.